I will switch back to English for this presentation, for the next one, so that everybody can follow. And now it's about another hardware project. So it's the GTA04 and the A5 version. So because not everybody is very familiar with what the GTA04 and what A5 is, well, this is it. This is the GTA04. It is a replacement for the OpenMoko devices. OpenMoko did build these smartphones, this one, and there was an earlier one in 2007, 2008. And end of 2008, there was a financial crisis, and OpenMoko had to shut down the production and development. And then in 2009, we started to develop that GTA04 board. And yes, it is a motherboard replacement. So you open your old device, put in a new motherboard, and then the device has a new function. A5 is because A3 and A4 are different revisions of the board, bug fixes, and A5 is another bug fix that is planned but not yet in production. So just to remind to those who already have it, and some information for those who don't have, what are the benefits of such a replacement compared to these original devices? Well, it makes it from 2.5G GSM and GPRS to a 3.75G pentaband UMTS high speed. It gives much more memory, much more RAM, more flash, a faster CPU. And there was a small design issue. This device has stereo speakers but no wireless LAN. This has mono speaker but wireless LAN. And with that board, you can have both. It adds more sensors inside. So the originals, they just have an accelerometer, which is the position of the device. But if you rotate it, it does not recognize. So there's the gyroscope, which is for rotation detection, a compass, and a barometer, which is the altitude. So you can use that for advanced gaming input, and for additional information for navigation. There was a so-called GLAMO CPU, or GPU, a graphic accelerator here in this one, which was not an accelerator, it was a decelerator in fact. And this is quite different. Then we had managed to add a camera. So somebody drills a hole here, and inside the case you can add a camera, and that is a feature that did not exist at all before. An FM transceiver can be used, for example, to play audio files from the device to your car radio, or on the other hand, listen to radio while you are hiking or biking. The TV output is possible. Yeah, and finally, and that's the most important thing, for the original devices, nobody is supporting the kernel anymore. It's an old, you see, 400 megahertz Samsung processor. But for this one, yeah, it's the OMAP 3, it's still supported, the kernel tree, and there are even some more years to be expected where this device gets support. Yeah, the general benefit of such devices, the older one or with this replacement, is the full schematics are available, which is very rare for any other device. Sometimes you can be lucky to find some weak service manual with some schematics, but sometimes it's not clear which special components are inside. So you can look inside, you can learn something, you can change it, you can modify it. All bootloaders and all kernels are open source. There is no hidden software in this area. The device can be easily opened. Just open the screws, put off the frame. Nothing or almost nothing is glued. And if something is fixed with glue, then it's not very difficult to open. There's a choice of different operating systems. Most devices you buy, they either have iOS or some Android, which is not supported for a long time, and there's nothing else. There are no locks, no routing, no jailbreak needed. And for some commercial products or some mainstream products, you even break your warranty if you install different software. It depends on the detailed wording of that. And some of us are collectors. We collect the first, and it was the first smartphone that was shipped with Linux inside. Yeah, the feature set, well, it's not the most modern thing. Even the GTA04 is 3G and this display and the form factor and so on. It's not the most modern device, but it's practical and usable for daily use. It's enough. But what is the status? The status is there is no stock left over. 3 slides ago I mentioned that it was produced and shipped between 2011 and 2013. Now we have almost end of 2014. There's no stock left over, and the problem is that it needs a certain amount of units to run another production batch. So we have started a crowdfunding to get the funds for another production batch already in 2013, last year. And at the moment we have 39 pre-orders with €100 or above. But that's not enough yet. What we need is at least 100 units. It doesn't sound much, but the problem with this number of units is that there is a lot of one-time costs. To have this electronics production set up, there's one person sitting about 1 or 2 days just installing the components to the pick-and-place machine. And if you want to pay that person, give it a fair payment, as we have learned, it costs money. So having this person set up the machine, produce one board, and then tear down everything makes the cost of one device very unreasonable. So a rough figure is that if it runs for 100 units, that takes then 2 or 3 days for every step, then, well, this setup and tear down becomes a smaller part. The price will still be high. It's about 500, 600 euro in total. To get this down, we would need much higher quantities, around 5K. But that is unrealistic if you know what it is, that it is a replacement for the existing devices. Well, somebody must have an existing device first. And this, of course, limits the demand. The limits are generally, and I will talk about the first point in the next slide, is some components are limited. I already mentioned that it needs people with these existing devices, or we need a satisfying solution for people who do not yet have that, who want to get something like this, get a device that is good, has good support by replicator. Yeah, and of course I already mentioned the price. You will find, and the price and the features. You will find comparably featured Android devices at around 100 euro. So, but if you get that, you will also get no support. You will buy no support. You will buy no bootloader, no source. You won't have upgrades for about 7 years. No hacking, no learning, no fun. Well, it's cheaper. So in general, these things are just for the dumb users and you throw it away. So coming to the components. Well, it was designed in between 2009 and 2011, taking the availability of several components. But some components are no longer available. The manufacturer has simply stopped to produce them. In some cases, it's no problem. There's a replacement, easy to find. Then we just take it. For others, it's more difficult. And that is the current picture and compared to last year. Well, for the CPU, Texas Instruments still available. For the modem, I just asked 2 weeks ago, still available, we can get it. GPS module is also available. For the battery charger, for the original transistors that switch the battery and the charger, they are no longer in production, but there's a good replacement and it's already tested, so that will work. It's a minor redesign of the printed circuit board. The acceleration sensor, that is no longer available, but there are good replacements. Also just a small change in the PCB. That's a duplicate. I see it's GPS. GPS is available. For wireless LAN, that one is really difficult now. The original part we have in this design, that's no longer available. So we might have luck to get some, and if it's about 100 units, it could be that somewhere in Asia someone has still 150 of these things and just wants to get rid of them. There is an alternative I will mention in a separate slide. For the vibration motor, last year it was difficult because the original one was no longer available. But now I found one that is even a little smaller and can be soldered directly to the PCB. So that's a good solution. So we can do that. For the camera module, yeah, there we have a real problem because the original one we have here is the optional camera that's no longer available. And I have tried to get some replacements from China, but it is still in the postal system. China Post is very slow, so I don't know, and I don't know if it really fits. For the receiver, the earpiece, so that you can listen to that, the original part is also no longer available, but we have a good replacement. Infrared is a simple solution. Then for the speakers, it's difficult. Just recently, 1 year ago, it was no problem to get speakers that are the same and compatible to what is inside here, but now they are no longer available. So that's the main question mark, one of the main question marks. 3G antenna, well, there's a solution for the case. For those who do not own an old device, there are several approaches. The main approach is using 3D printing. Another one was 3 or 4 years ago. There have been a lot of experiments with wooden cases, but that's too difficult to produce. GPS antenna is a solution, battery, well, there are some Nokia replacements. So generally there are 3 areas with a question mark if we can really produce these and how we can do it. Well, the camera, the stereo speakers, which is outside of the PCB, and on the PCB we have the issue with the wireless LAN. Before I come to that, just a few what these replacements are. It's a speaker, that's the earpiece, the next is a vibromotor, GPS antenna. This is one idea how to make an antenna for 3G. The other one is to use such a predefined antenna block. So this can be solved. For the 3D printed cases, where is it? Here. There are solutions, and they look like this. Does it fit this way or this way? This way. No, not exactly both. Only one should fit.
Use the force.
This one fits. Okay, so this is one that really resembles this case. And here is a design, a different one, like shown here. It's a simplified thing, just made out of having two pieces. Just put in the PCB with a display and close it, and then you have a device. It also comes with a 3D printed pen. So there are two different variants of the same. So producing more devices with such 3D printed cases can be done. Now back to the wireless LAN. Currently we have this W2 module. It's known to work. Drivers exist in our kernel, but chip availability has become very problematic. There's an alternative to replace that module on the new PCB. It could be a Texas Instruments-based module, which would have all and even more modern data rates and speeds, would have a 5 GHz wireless LAN, Bluetooth 4. It saves a level shifter because it has a simpler interface. It uses a little less power. The power control is easier. It's also available. It's not even more expensive. It has an integrated FM transceiver and it's even smaller. So everything is okay. Well, what we do not 100% know is how good is the driver. It exists, is available for the Texas Instruments number 5 wireless system. That's probably can be solved and can be done. The critical point is it's an untested circuit. There's a risk that you introduce layout bugs, and the problem is that we cannot use a GTA04 board, connect this module to it and test it. We need to build a board first, and for 100 units we either can build 100 of the same boards, but we cannot do it twice. That's the critical point. It needs an external quartz, well, that we save space on one end and we have it on the other. So that's something that is still undecided. To summarize, it's much better, but might not work at all. Difficult to test without a new board, so the decision is still open. Yeah, for the software for this device, I think some of these points are already explained by other presentations. We have kernels, we have different software, Qtmoko, SHR, Replicant, Quantum Step is a prototype. Well, a good question is who is working on WebOS, Firefox OS, Waymo, and so on, Plasma Active. Anyone working on that? Maybe there are people interested in that, and they could be made interested in this project and device. So the summary is the hardware is there. It has some issues. Some of them can easily be solved. Some are more tricky. The most critical point is that for the 100 production units, we need more interested users. And so if any one of you knows somebody who has such an open Moco that collects dust, so please make him or her known that this project exists, which could extend the lifetime of the original device by some more years. So that is, in short, the status of this project. Questions?
Is there a evaluation board available for the Wi-Fi module?
Yes, sure.
That would reduce the introduct or the.
It would only reduce the risk that it works with an OMAP, or that it works at all. You know that it works.
Yeah, but you have also the layout and
Yeah, you have the problem to interface it correctly to the PCB.
Okay.
And on our PCB. And if there's one bug inside, we have the problem.
Yeah, that risk we can.
Yeah, we cannot eliminate that. So essentially it's replaced in this chip, and here's some 2 or 3 and about 50 wires. And if there's one wire is wrong, then we have a problem. And that's risky. It can be done, of course. There are other measures to reduce the risk. That's by doing review and asking people who sees the problem and so on. Other questions? Okay. Then thank you for that. Yeah, das Ganze.
To understand right, it's mainly for people having the device for replacement. It's not thought as a project for somebody needing a new device.
It was not developed for that. It was developed as a replacement for existing. But there are means like these 3D cases to have additional devices. Of course, this is not like if you design a new device completely from scratch, you would do many things differently. So it's a compromise to have such a 3D case, but it's possible.
But if you have such a 3D case, you're missing some buttons or can you get those?
No, it has the buttons. Yeah, there's the springs inside, printed springs. So you can press the button outside, which is part of the printed plastic, and it gives contact to the electronic part or electrical part of the button. So it has a power button and a user button. Okay.
So the contact pads are. What about them? You told that they are easy to rip off. Is there a plan to be anything more stable?
Which contacts?
These.
The headset and the USB.
The left ones. Between the PMP.
This one.
Yes.
That's unlikely because they are so small that the force which connects or glues them to the surface of the PCB is small. So there's a risk if you solder something here, you will rip off this golden part, and that's difficult or impossible to solve. But I didn't mention it. It is planned to replace many of them with a real connector, like this one, so that about 8 or 10 lines are a zero force connector. So you will have I2C and power and reset and 1 or 2 interrupts on a real expansion connector. Okay. Then let's move to the next presentation.